fight brings destiny nearer. A saga of sunset. Saga of sunset. Saga of sunset.
And that's the show for tonight. Everybody hit the link and go back a Saga of Sunset. Well, no, okay, we want to talk about a little bit more. So let's bring to the stage Mr. A.C. Pritchard. Sir, how are you doing tonight?
Oh man, a lot better. That was quite something there. You know, as a musician myself, I have to say that was very well done. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Those are getting fun to write. I mean, I wish I could play the instruments, but I let the computer do that work for me.
Yeah. I mean, in this day and age, that's completely okay. It might have been a different story in like the 80s and 90s, you know. But
you know, the 80s and 90s gave us people who couldn't sing, and we couldn't tell it because the auto-tune took over.
You're right. So maybe the 70s would have more of a problem with it.
Yeah,
they're like, "What are you doing with computers, man? You gotta."
Music doesn't come from the soul, man. Yeah. You gotta have calluses on your fingers. I'm like, have you seen me type? Come on.
Yeah, calluses. But yeah, so glad to be here, man. This is
same
awesome.
here. Been a long day, week, weird week. I mean, you know, I'm off one day, I'm working the next. I'm off for a holiday, I'm working the next, and I'm like, I feel like it's been 3 weeks crammed into one this way.
Dude, I hear you. And on top of that, you got like daily upkeep at around the house. Like my lawn was a jungle after a whole bunch of rain that we got. Like it was a large amount, larger than normal, and so it was like a jungle when I was trimming it. It took me like 9 hours, and now it's already back to like I can't even tell I mowed it. So it's
a little bit of rain just to back up again.
It all adds up, man.
So I'm looking at the campaign here, and I feel like I need to dust off my 20-sided die.
Yeah.
You'd be right. This has got a D&D feel all over it. What do we got here? This has just started, folks. So get in on the ground.
Yeah, we're about just under a month in, and this is you'd be right to assume the 20-sided die D&D thing, because that's kind of partially where I get my background with like my storytelling inspiration. It all kind of like starts with, I got bad eyesight, so that pushes me more towards like video games and movies and stuff like tabletop. So the first time I picked up like a Lord of the Rings RPG book when I was in like middle school, I just went home. My brain was just firing. It was like it was activated, and the rest is history. I can't say that this is one of those campaigns that is directly taken from a tabletop game, but I can say that I do have a fond love for it and a background playing it. So, my world very much touches on all the D&D races, for example. Like I like to take the typical tropes that you find in fantasy, like the orcs, the lizard people, the goblins, the dragons, everything, and try to give it like a fresh coat of paint and ground it in realism. That's kind of my thing. I'm dancing with like fantasy and realism with my stories.
So your main character, him and Horfist, for those who couldn't make out what those words were in the song, is an orc, which is typically not your main character, certainly not the heroic character in an epic fantasy.
No, sir.
They're fodder. You're supposed to kill orcs.
Yeah, and even one further from a Tolkien-esque point of view, and even early D&D, pure evil typically, right? Like through and through. Exactly. Like you should feel no pain decapitating an orc. Just because, like, shout outs to Tolkien, they were once elves, right? But they've been like corrupted by magic and literal torture and suffering for so long that's what they look like now. And even further, do you know the etymology of orcs, the original?
I know nothing of orcs beyond Tolkien and D&D.
A lot. Oh man,
ugly creatures. They rode at night, and you ran from them if you couldn't kill them.
So a lot of these, for lack of a better term, like pagan creatures that exist are essentially, they all boil down to kind of the same idea, which is just different spirits. So like the orcs, I believe there's a place called Orkland. Um, you know,
It's just south of LA. Yeah.
there's probably several, yeah, yeah. And I think there's even one over in like around New Zealand and stuff. But I digress. Just from that name right there, you can tell how prevailing the idea of these creatures have been. But like they all kind of stem from like this idea of a spirit, like in a similar way that like a goblin is like an earth spirit, right? And like a dwarf is kind of just actually it's more of a pejorative modern term for these things that we've coined. But when you trace them all back to the source, it just seems like they're all like fairies that come out of the ground, that our ancestors have
That was
devised.
something that Brandon Mull, there's a name I haven't heard in a while, played with in his Fablehaven series, um, where he said, that imps, evil little fairies, they were basically
Yeah,
fairies who, if you captured a fairy and you kept it in like a bell jar, like a butterfly, and you
yeah.
didn't let it out at night so that it didn't go take cover from night, it would turn into an imp the next day and it would just be this evil little mischievous creature.
Oh, cool. See, so imps are right there. Imps would be like the natural opposite of a fairy,
Yeah.
kind of like an angel and a demon.
And the fairy that he had in the jar, kid didn't know, and the fairy's like pounding for its life, said, "Let me out, let me out, let me out!" And like,
Yeah. And when you think about it, that's probably like a traumatic experience. Like that fairy is emerging from that. Like, what if it didn't transform? Like the transformation that's visible is just it's just a broken creature at that point. It's
yeah,
become feral from captivity or whatever. Kind of dark, but yeah, that's kind of where my mind, sorry about the dog here.
that's all
That's
right.
kind of where my mind goes though. One second. Yeah, you take something like a fairy, and then I can't help but like just ground it in realism. It's the same with the orcs
Well,
and everything.
Fablehaven is fantastic for that. Not to take away from the story we're talking about right now, but
Oh no.
Fablehaven, it was written for young adults. I was in my 40s reading it. And I just loved the hell out of the whole thing. It was just it was your typical kids adventure like I used to read in the 70s and 80s. Brother and sister sent to live with grandma and grandpa for the summer, and grandpa was like, not keen on it, and grandma said, "Let him come." Grandpa was not keen on it because grandpa runs a farm for fairy characters.
Oh, that's
He's
cool.
one of several, and there's like this, clandestine network where fairies get to live on these reservations away from modern world. And
Mhm.
unless you have drinking the milk of the big blue cow in the barn, you don't see them.
That's
Um,
cool, man. So it
and they're
see,
all dangerous.
of course, because you got to have danger. You got to
You got to
have
have danger.
stakes, and yeah, and yeah. So
So yeah,
this is
if anybody hasn't read a good fairy epic in a while, I recommend Fablehaven.
that
It'll
just
keep you
tells
busy
me.
all summer.
I can't help but feel like that is just a very clever take on that's a very clever take on a portal fantasy if I've ever heard it, because like you're not exactly entering another world, and this is where the clever thing is, but you are as soon as your eyes open, so to speak, which
Yeah,
even
and
in
and of
modern,
course there were rebel caretakers who said, you know what, the world needs to know these things exist. So you've got this battle going on between
yeah,
uh,
a
the
conflict,
Sith and the Jedi of fairy caretakers.
a
Uh,
war of the worlds, so to speak. Right.
exactly.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So
but now
it's
in
like,
in this, your
yes,
your
yes,
character is he's next in line for the throne.
yes,
Not by
sir.
being a prince, but by a promise from the current Orc King, as I'm understanding the writing.
Yeah, him and earned it. So you actually just reminded me. I'm doing the July World Builders thing, and the first chunk of it, the first third of it, is just all military. So yeah, the kings. How do I put this? Like even King Arthur, right? The noblest, most just symbol of a king. Like just there's just certain pragmatic things that kings need to do to maintain their kingdom. Strong leaders need to do this. uh, just make choices every now and then, right? And that's one of the first lines in the in the story is he says, "A father must lead, but a leader must make difficult choices." Uh, it's kind of like, you know, right off the bat, an examination on that, and essentially you can deduce that there has been a lot that's happened up until this point. Like you don't just become a jarl overnight. He reminisces on the name on the day he earned his name, but it never touches on how he actually became a jarl. But once you start piecing together all the different characters like backstories, because really this is like a parade of characters on top of a travel log that's just going into another world. We're just traveling right into that cave, so to speak, the Dragon's Den, right? Just diving headlong into it because it's a short story, has a defined ending and everything. And yeah, you can deduce that he's done a lot for the king. Yeah, he was promised it, but what makes a king promise somebody something like that? They must have done a lot, right? So a kingdom is often forged from on an ocean of blood and made on a raft of bones. So orcs in my world live in a very unforgiving place. It's the polar regions of an unforgiving world. Hail, Herman P. Hunter. Hammered
I'm
P.
not
Hunter.
hammered yet, but I'm working on it.
Oh, cheers, boys. But yeah, they come from a very unforgiving place, and I adopted a very Spartan rite of passage into fatherhood. You toss them into the wilderness, and they're either going to come back with a pelt or not, right? Except this is the winter, the wintry place of the world. And this all ties into their beliefs and stuff, which I could get into more, but I digress. You got to earn your way in the orcs. They're kind of slightly more primitive humans, but I would say primitive comes with simplicity, which has its advantages, actually,
Yes.
in some ways.
So you said this is a complete story, 72 pages. It's not issue one of an ongoing Circle of Time kind of thing.
Right. It has an ending. It has a beginning. It's full of ice. It's full of icebergs, right? And I don't just mean the flying ship floating over Titanic enders on the endless water here. I mean, like this came right off of the back of me writing a full length, an epic length, I should say, because full length implies like 90 to 100,000 word novel. I'm talking like 150,000 word novel. Basically, the backstory of my Sauron, essentially. That's in editing right now, coming soon. But I would love to do a graphic novel for that. But we're talking like at least like 150 page graphic novels for like an actual book, or but yeah, short story is perfect. It's like we could even be pushing the 100-page range here if I do a lot of splash pages, which
Sure.
I'm very much not in a hurry, which I don't know if you've checked the trailer out yet, or the viewers will see if we get to that in the show, but it's very much like it almost comes off like an audiobook advertisement, and it's because I adapted this from a short story, and I'm not in a hurry because the story will tell itself, right? And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that gives the art a little bit of room to breathe as well. I can give Luke Stone a little bit of a voice that way by not being in a hurry, if that makes sense.
We have the pro and anti orc campaigns going at it in the chats here.
Yeah.
Person of Tusk.
It's been a little the campaign's been a little controversial since Daniel P. Riley said orcs are gay on Iron Age Nights. So
They are? I didn't know that.
This is news to me. I thought they were incredibly masculine, heroic, sometimes evil. Depends on your portrayal of them. I mean,
plus, where did little baby orcs come from? I mean, what are they? Split?
But yeah, I put this in all ages, but I would say parental guidance. It does have like dark themes, but I do want dads to be able to like read it with their sons. It's a story of fatherhood and ambition, but like when you tell stories of ambition, it often comes with darkness. I just heard a term the other day. I forgot what it's called, but it's essentially the idea of like, even and this works in the reverse too, but even in the darkest, bleakest moments, there's always beauty to be found somewhere. And even in the most beautiful, tranquil, peaceful moments, there's always darkness. it's kind of like I just cannot help but have that. So, and like I said, my writing, I like to dance with realism a little bit. So it does get pretty wild by the end of the story, and I'm interested in how Luke is gonna how Luke is gonna draw that up, because I've had, like, it's right there in the in the reviews. Out of all three of the short stories in my on my book on Amazon that this is adapted from, this one in particular, when I got feedback from it, people were like, "Damn, dude, that was pretty brutal," and I'm just like, "Huh." You didn't think like the lizard lady queen from story one, essentially conquering conquering an entire like metropolis, men, women, and children all, wasn't bad? Or how about like the bad guys from World War II stand-in from story number 2, who's trying to redeem himself, but we all know there's only one way to do that, and that's self-sacrifice. But there's some pretty brutal stuff in that too. Like, I mean, we're all familiar with some of the bad stuff that happened less than 100 years ago, but like, I'm talking people being lined up and rivers running dry, just from being clogged up with, bodies and stuff. But no, they point to this one for some reason, and they're like, that's pretty brutal, man. And
Well,
I
yeah,
don't know if it was
they know the other one. They know the other story already. So,
that's
it's like,
true. Yeah, that's true.
nothing
This one
comes.
actually does have the most, I would say, creative license to it, because um, it came to mind from me imagining what happened. I don't know if you're familiar with the Kensington Runestone, the story of the Kensington Runestone. Are you familiar?
I've not heard that one.
Oh, okay. It's a runestone that was found in Minnesota, and it's Viking runes. I can look it up here, and share a picture really quick. But essentially, the Kensington runestone, and some people debate that this is a hoax or whatever, but hoax or not, the runes are deemed to be authentic and stuff like that, and it does tell a story. And essentially, the story is that some Vikings traveled all this way from the New World, essentially, which they or Vinland, if I recall, is the translation, which we know is on the East Coast. So essentially, they say they come all the way up from they traveled up the inland sea, is the way they call is how they called Great Lakes back then, inland seas, which is a great way to describe them, to be honest, because when you're in the middle of a Great Lake, it really is like the ocean. And essentially, here it is. Okay. And essentially, they came all the way to Minnesota. Oh, you found it. Okay, cool. Sorry, I was on another screen looking. They came to Minnesota on the up the Great Lakes from the ocean, and made it this far. And the runestone translates and says that they essentially divided their party. They split the party. A bad idea right away, for those who got their D20s out earlier. In D&D, you never split the party. So they split the party deep in the heartland of wild Minnesota. And, I think they went hunting, or they left half the people to go fishing, or to fish and guard the boat, essentially, while they went hunting or foraging or something. They were doing something. But it says that they came back and they found them all, in their words, quote unquote, red with blood, and dead and red with blood. The and they even like say a prayer for him and stuff. It's a very interesting stone. You can see right here, man, like, look at those runes. That's beautiful. I went to the museum, and after leaving the museum, I had realistic long ships in my head, a pretty good understanding of them, in this rune stone. And I was just like, because I always tell myself, do you think they made it home? If it takes like 20 to 40 dudes to pilot one of these longboats, and they made it all the way across the ocean and up the Great Lakes and this far, and then like half of them are taken out, I don't think they made it home. So it just gave me this idea for a story.
Dude, that means that somewhere along or under the Great Lakes, there's a Viking longship waiting to be discovered.
For real, dude. I mean, yeah, I won't spoil anything from my story, the whereabouts of the longship, but yeah, maybe there is, man. And we don't explore entirely enough of the bottom of the watery areas.
Send Nick Cage out after that thing.
Yeah, for real.
The third
Yeah, man.
American treasure movie.
That'd be
Hey,
awesome.
you know what? I have never seen Rocky Horror. I think I've seen it once, and it just didn't. It was on DVD, so it wasn't the same experience. It just
Yeah.
didn't stick with me.
Yeah, I think I checked out Rocky Horror one time. I don't know if I watched all of it though.
Yeah, it's like I missed the allure of the whole thing, but I can sing the time warp and do it. But yeah, that was the
Yeah.
best part of it. So since I've got screen share up, let me share it back over to here. You mentioned the trailer. We're going to go ahead and give this a play so people can see, the full trailer for this project. This is, by the way, on Fund My Comic. The link is right below the video. You all should be clicking on it and throwing money at this thing. It's got 66 days to go, but why wait? Come on,
Yeah.
get
Help
this
us
thing moving.
Get to the next
take a-
cover.
Tensing the muscles in his hands, he remembered how he claimed his name. That winter so long ago now, where a band of rogue bulls had been pillaging every village between the mountains.
Their rampage broke against me, however,
He thought.
and a blizzard rose up to protect me.
The storm had raged for 3 days after the horde arrived. Hyman had gathered his brothers and cousins to strike first, though. When the stars came out, most of the horde slept. The storm had broken, and Hyman knew that was his chance.
My cousin still claims I caved in their leader's face with frozen fists.
He grunted and brushed a numb finger across the remains of his nose.
The cold claimed a nose, 4 toes, and nearly both hands that night. But I bought my name with it.
How's it going, everybody? This is AC Pritchard, thanking you personally for making it this far into the video. I just wanted to say that I look forward to watching this project grow over time and giving you the best product that I can possibly give for being so generous in your possible support. So thank you for your consideration and have a nice day. Let's see where the road takes us. Cheers. Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to my wife there in the chat, Pritchard Pub. She is my editor and actually one of the 3 wings of the Holy Trinity. That's the team behind all of this. So she edited the book and the comic, and between her and Luke, it's me, her, and Luke. Aside from the people that Luke has on his team, that
Sure.
whatever his process is.
It's good to have an editor who isn't afraid to tell you where you're screwing up.
Oh, she'll tell me. She'll tell me.
Because she knows you can't fire me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good. I think that's a good relationship with the editor. I'm pretty sure you're stuck in here with me, right? That what is that from Watchmen?
Yes.
Rorschach.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Reminder, yeah, I'm not locked up in here with you.
Good
You're
stuff.
locked in here with me.
And I mean, since we're married, it doesn't hurt that she probably wants it to be good too.
Sure. Because the more of it that sells, the better off the family coffers are.
Exactly.
And we all know who controls the family coffers.
We all do.
If
Yep.
we've been married before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a fact.
So how far along in the production is this book? I mean, because you hear people saying, "Hey, you shouldn't crowdfund something until it's 90% done." You hear people saying, "I can't get any of it done if I don't fund the thing."
Right. So I got okay, let me start back here. So I published the short story collection for free on Amazon. I took those profits, which I made all that from free software. So it's directly from my mind to Amazon. Those profits from the first initial people, not very much, dude. I don't even think I've sold 100 books. Maybe I don't even think 50. So I took those first initial ones of just the people that believe in me the most. I shopped artists. I found Luke Stone. I heard his appearance on Iron Age Nights. I heard his backstory. I was like, this dude's awesome. I'm sold. I hit him up. We hit it off. He wanted to do the orcs. I presented all 3. He's like, flying orc Vikings sounds awesome, man. And
Yes.
me and him bonded on our beliefs about family. I think he has a background in music too, and like I really like his his attitude being a faithful man, but like not preachy, if that makes sense. Which is ironic because I think the guy used to be a pastor, so
He did.
he literally preached and
Yeah.
doesn't, right? Because I think he understands it, and he understands that you win more people over by being undeniable rather than authoritarian, I guess would be the best way to put it. But yeah, I digress. Found him, made the first couple pages, initiated that connection, right? And then from there, I was able to show like places like Anvil Magazine and actually start like kind of making a name for myself a little bit. Anvil Magazine agreed to publish it and funded up to 15 pages. So I have 15 pages made of this so far, which is how I'm able to, and that's the entire first scene, I believe is, that's the entire first scene. So Richard wanted a good chunk of the story. He was interested in it too. He liked what I was about with the pro family stuff and like fresh take on orcs. Sorry about the dog. 1 second here. The wife's home. They'll stop in a second here, but that's why they're barking. They hear her car. But yeah, so we got the 15 pages done and published in Anvil, and which is a proof of concept. I have 4 available for free preview. I didn't want to like dump the whole Anvil preview, even though I'm pretty sure Richard would be cool with it. I still want to give value to the Anvil magazine and have a reason for people to go check that out. Because that
is a quality magazine.
It is.
Had the honor of distributing some of those issues up for their international audience.
It is an honor, really. Yeah. To be associated with them really in any way. I mean, even if I wasn't published by Anvil and I just was retweeting, I would still be happy to be just associated with them because I mean they really are like a beacon for indies, and they're providing tools, and opportunities. And they
remind me a lot of what heavy metal used to be.
Yeah. Thank you, lovely wife. Everybody say hi to Moonzilla Tarot. Catherine Pritchard, my wife.
What's up,
And there, I believe she's in the chat right here at one point.
Yes.
Hold on, look what I got, Booba. It's fruit punch.
You got he's gonna love that. You guys think my son will love this fruit punch thing? Probably.
What kind of? Hang on, let me get this to big screen.
Bingo from Bluey.
Oh, I want one now.
He wants one now, he said. So yeah, anyway, so with the right attitude of trying to prop up the cream, so to speak, help the cream rise to the top, and also get these independent creators paid, Anvil directly helped me get a proof of concept, a chunky one too. It's like an entire issue of a comic, basically. I mean, an average
15 pages.
Yeah, it's 5 shy, right? Some would argue 9. Some would argue 9 shy, right? But it's just shy of a full issue, and so I mean, you could argue that the first issue is already out, and I'm just trying to get the whole graphic novel, right? So the first initial chunk here, I got the cover C made, and I'm considering a guest artist, but I also kind of like the idea of just like Luke only, like this idea of just like me, my wife, and Luke, like a small inner core team. Just because I don't know. I mean, if there's a wild amount of course, I will look at some cool people for sure for like a guest. But yeah, I digress.
So have you? He said, with ulterior motives. Have you found a publisher or a printer?
A printer. I shopped around a little bit and got some estimates, but because I'm willing to pay for print and shipping out of pocket, if that's where this campaign dries up, I'd be willing to pay for that out of pocket. So I'm not too concerned on that. I have like over a decade of experience in music, so I'm pretty familiar with finding a decent printer, and I'm confident in some of the connections I have. I can find one.
Because you have a connection with somebody who does print and ship.
Yes. Oh, right in front of me, right?
Yeah. Especially if you you want to take the thing into a retail market after the crowdfunder's done.
Well, brother, I would actually I'd love to work with you, to be honest, because like I said,
we're here for everybody.
I've shopped around, And that's about it, because I just needed my quotes together. I needed to see if this was doable. I have my initial goal and then the total. It's the goal on this is so high because I just transparently put the total goal on there, and lower down I break it all apart and explain, at what amount the graphic novel's finished and all that. So
Yeah, so it is a $13,000 goal, and with 66 days ago, this is a what kind of campaign is this? This is a raise mode. So this is not a keep it all. This is a raise mode, which I believe means if you don't get 13,000, it all reverts back, right?
I thought it was keep it all, because Luke actually suggested I do that. So if it's on raise mode, something may have gotten mixed up. But
one of the things is it got a black square, one doesn't. I don't know which one means on or off.
I know the raise mode look. You got me questioning myself here, because essentially the plan here was to keep it all, and then if it doesn't fund, I would hop on another platform and then go for round 2. There's several platforms now. I know some people literally will not order from like even this one, because for those of you that don't know, Fund My Comic is just as big of a deal as like Anvil magazine, if not bigger. It's the Anvil magazine of comics, if that makes sense. Anvil is like a jack of all trades. This is right here for comic creators, and I mean, honestly, you could probably do other sorts of Kickstarters on here too.
And he has, and in fact, I think he's got another funder being built, which is going to be even more all inclusive for different kinds of products. So
but there is the undeniable thing. Some people won't use some. There's some out there that just won't use this because they're on their other thing and refuse to switch, or whatever the reason is. And others refuse to use other ones because of like other reasons, like I don't know, like political censorship, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you have one system in place long enough, it becomes a religion.
Yeah,
and that's I'm a Kickstarter-tarian. Only order from Kickstarter. I'm an Indiegogo cost.
That just reminds me of this term, cinephile. Cinephile. Have you heard that term recently? Yeah.
Cinephile, yeah, the movie lovers.
You're supposed to be a movie lover, yeah. But I think the term is becoming politicized, unfortunately. It's like you're a cinephile, if you will. I mean, I could be wrong here. This is just conjecture here. But cinephile, essentially, the modern term would be like you don't overjudge movies. So essentially, you'll just you'll enjoy all the Disney stuff. No matter what.
That's
naive.
There's a difference between being judgmental and just accepting anything.
I know.
So I'm a bit of a cinephile myself, but I spell it with an S.
I was a movie reviewer. I had a column for my local newspaper and everything.
I got in this business.
Right. And you'll notice the campaign page is kind of laid out like a magazine. That's because I can't help it. Like that's my background. It's a little journalisty because it's kind of where I started back in high school, So, I mean,
you got some great Luke Stone art here. I mean, it's all consistent look. The orcs all look unique.
Yeah.
So they're not. You don't have a million similar looking orcs and one with a scar, so you can tell him out in the battle when he.
He nailed it. Like there's several scenes where they're arguing or they're partying, or there's a lot of group scenes, or like I see it very cinematically in my head. Like I said, I got my start like with tabletop and movies and video games and stuff, so I can see those those long shots in my head, those aerial shots, those extreme long point of view shots, stuff like that, all in my head, and that popped up in the script. So he got all these shots with scale that he got to do, and I don't know, he really knocked it out of the park, just giving everybody their own face and identity and stuff like that. I was just
so. How many, roughly, not an exact count, but how many orc identities do we have here as far as major players and their personalities being different and all that? I know we know Himon and we know the King.
Oh, I will list them all off for you right here, right now, buddy. I got many of the major characters listed under the cards on the rewards, but I can pull up a list here. So essentially, you got the Jarl, the protagonist. That's whose perspective it's from, which I've come to realize is just a very orky, like a very icy orky Batman, if you want to view him that way. Which once I had that realization, I was okay with it, because at first I was like, I don't really know any other characters that like brood as much as I've made this guy kind of like brooding, and then I made the connection. He's like Batman, right?
He's the
So
Lord Byron of orcs.
yeah. And then you got the king, who's kind of the foil, right, to that. He's the opposite. And I mean, you can see from like the coloring and stuff, like everything in this is really intentional. Like the colors are so vibrant because I'm talking about them so much in the script. I'm saying this needs to stand out. This person is wearing, like right here, that orc right there with his arm up.
Yeah.
That's Red Raken's bastard. Is Red Raken's bastard Sangu is his full name. Everybody just calls him the bastard. He's Red Raken's bastard. That's his name, Red Raken's bastard. So like, and I kind of had that come out in the personality too. Like he's used to just being referred to that as his whole life. He only has a few lines in the story, but I feel like you get a lot out. Like he wears a blue, a wolf pelt right there, dyed blue, and he wears that because his dad is Red Raken. He's like kind of the rebellious child. And I like his arc. There's actually a really, I get choked up at one particular point in the story every time I listen to it on the audiobook. I don't know if it's because the part actually disturbed my voice actor and he just got that emotion in there or what, but like, yeah, by the end of it, he regrets being the rebellious child, I'll say. But yeah, you can see he doesn't look very childlike. Like he's very orky, like any other of them. But I give each of them a personality like that.
And this is where your fans begin orc shipping, because all the unique personalities are going to have favorites. And you're like, oh, these two should become best buddies.
Oh yeah. And I mean, it probably doesn't help the way I describe everything too. Everything is super heavy and like almost biblical. And I mean, even in some of the details of the scenes, they can come off as sexual, even like, and I don't even try to do that. There's not any sort of sexuality, by the way, in the stories either. I just don't feel that like that's super important, even though I do acknowledge that, the breeding habits of goblins is probably a realistic thing to keep track of for somebody who acknowledges realism so much, like me.
It's only important if it's important to the story.
Yeah.
I mean, I had, somebody once tell me that, if there's a lovemaking scene in a story, first of all, you'll never get more of a raw glimpse into who someone is than when two people are making love. Right. At the same time, if you're doing it because you don't have your R rating backed up yet and you've got to get it in there, you're not getting that character revelation. You're just, filling up some time and showing off boobies.
Yeah, essentially.
And who wants to see orc boobies? Come on. There's somebody out there. I know. There's a rule 36 out there for this, I'm sure.
It'll happen. It'll happen. And don't get me wrong, you got orc muscle mamas too, because Valkyries are a thing. Vikings did not scoff at women. Who do you think is protecting the longhouse and the children when the men are off raiding, right? So you got some orc muscle mamas in there. I had to get that in there. And as far as like the final party in the last stretch of the story is concerned, yeah, one of them is there too. So I do care about representation. You got orcs with green skin, you got orcs with more gray, purple skin. They're all there. You got the human, the token human is in there.
There's a token human. Is his name token?
Shout outs to Hond, which but fun fact is it derived from Norse and translates to hound or dog. So he's a slave. The dog. Okay. Yeah, he's like the dog that they kick around. He's their thrall. And that's how you can get I mean, it's dark. It sucks to get representation in certain contexts like that. but that's where a lot of modern Hollywood, I think, goes wrong. They're afraid. I'm being honest. These are my ancestors, right? Not only am I putting my ancestors in the context of a historically evil race of creatures, right? This isn't even self-flagellating, because look at this art. It's gorgeous. It's heroic. This is a legend in my world. You could say I do romanticize them. You definitely could say that. But these are also the Luke Stone version of them. So like my Vikings, my orcs are like this, and this is derived from my descriptions, but this is the Luke Stone take of them. Mine are actually, even like in the book, I would say, in the source material, even more savage, for lack of a better term. Like I said, more primitive humans. But because this is a legend and romanticized in and of itself, it lends itself to it. And plus, I just really love Luke Stone's art. And I can tell when a guy's having fun with it. So,
Oh yeah, and you couldn't get a better or more committed artist than Luke.
no.
And he didn't pay me to say that at all.
No.
So let's take a look at the rewards here before we close out. This is the print cover edition. This is cover A. So there's gonna be some variant covers going on here.
Yep.
And it's 3/4 of a century of pages here.
Yeah, this is a placeholder mock-up for it. But because it is going to be a thicker graphic novel, I wanted to represent that in the even the mock-up. I just didn't want it to seem, because it having over 72 pages, it's going to be 72 minimum. I could get it done in 72 is my point, but there's room for plenty of splash pages and fewer panels and stuff like that. So yeah, we're talking, it could get in the hundreds if we wanted it to. And I understand, yeah. I understand like an average one is like 24 to 40 pages. So I just wanted to convey it will be thicker. That's one of the selling points. So,
all right. Then cover B is the black and white manga edition. Now hang on a sec. What do you mean manga edition? It's the same artist, right? So
yes. There will be a manga cover and it will be in black and white, which it's on the landing page here. Towards the bottom is cover C. Towards the bottom of the
it should be looking down here at the.
You'll see it pop up. It's pretty obvious. It's the only inks on the page. It's the right here. So you can see Luke Stone's style. Even though it's very American, it actually does lend itself to like a little bit of anime. I think Luke watched a little bit of Dragon Ball Z in his day, which I can get behind. You know what I mean? Who hasn't, right? That was the American anime, in a sense. Sold to
my American anime was Speed Racer. But
Speed Racer all day, dude. What'd you think of the movie?
I liked it. I mean, it was Carfu is what it was.
Yeah, it was oddly good. I thought it was for modern, not perfect. It's flawed like most.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't a straight up race car driver movie. I mean, the things they were doing with the scene transitions, but it was the cartoon come to life. So
the color too, the crazy amount of color. The color. Yeah, it was like neon
pops.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, his style lends itself, I think, to an anime style, and I like my share of anime. I'm not like a weeb. I can't tell you every episode of Bleach or Berserk, and I'm not current on One Piece, but I can tell you what a lot of people probably love about it, and it's the same things I love about it. And I tried to convey that in that reward. It's going to be very manga like the black and white. Luke Stone's art kind of looks like it already, and it's going to be undersized paperback. And don't worry, it won't be backwards. I'm not going to do it backwards. That
not totally manga.
Not totally manga. Yeah. So I call it manga so people can kind of like get kind of an idea. But I have a feeling I may have made a mistake there, because a lot of people have that same reaction that you just had, like what does that mean? And maybe I should just say undersized black and white.
Yeah. So you're gonna cut it down to like a 5x8 version.
Yeah, and you'll have your standard, which will be in paper and hard, and then the undersize a little bit more, just like a pocket size. And I'll even, if it comes down to it, and this involves the shopping around. but you said you print, right? So yeah, you probably have a better idea of like a good undersize, where it's like noticeably smaller, a nice unique product that somebody can hold. Like
We'll talk. We'll talk.
we will, yeah.
I'll
I'm
show
a
you
fan.
examples.
I'm a fan of when people make it look like a Bible. Have you seen that version of books?
You mean like dual columns of text,
Well,
or
maybe actually. No, I don't think there's actually dual columns of text, but just like the book itself has like it's like it feels like off leather. It's like a tiny book. It's like a tiny book, and the paper is just like it's so thin. Yeah. It's like
I've seen. I don't do those. That's a
That's-
specialty printer.
Yeah. If I could ever get to, that's kind of like a goal. I think one day that would be cool because I do have a book that's like that, and I'm just like, wow, I didn't realize how aesthetically pleasing this is, and I understand why all Bibles are like this because it just feels precious,
Yeah. Well, can you imagine the Bible if it was printed on 70-pound paper? Come on, you'd be like, let's take this to church with us.
Yeah, and it's like a magazine the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be kind of awesome, actually. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah,
So you got multiple tiers here. You got the. I'm trying to scroll back up here to the ones with the goodies. You got your digital deluxe editions, and then if you want tchotchkes, you've got your. Okay, now this is the oversized Color Pop edition.
yes.
What do you mean by oversized edition here?
So like the opposite of the manga edition. So it'll be like a noticeably larger one. So you can just get a nice, better look at the art. Hardcover only, limited print. I probably will only do like 50 or 100 of these. Another placeholder cover here on the front to show you what I mean by color pop. It's just going to be like black and white. I will go in with the inks and personally highlight key things. Like I said, I was very intentional in the script about colors, about the way things look, about like, he needs to be wearing this kind of thing. And I'll highlight all that in the Color Pop edition. I'll literally highlight all the symbolism, all the important stuff, because I'm telling you, that'll tell it's like a second story. Beneath the story or over it.
The fact that it's hardcover has me breathing a sigh of relief for you.
Oh yeah,
I've done some oversized paperbacks where the cover was slightly bigger than the interior pages. Let me tell you, those things don't ship.
Oh boy,
you will never get a mint condition one of those because the corners they'll bend down over the pages. The leverage is just such that a stiff cardboard oversized cover that hangs out.
No,
terrible.
Hardcover only. No, I want this. This is the one that I want to be like this is the collector's, like it's me and Luke Stone, right? Luke Stone's inks, me going in and personally touching it up with the color. We both sign it. Luke agreed to personally drive halfway across the country and meet up with me to sign everything. And
sweet.
I mean,
you're in Minnesota and he's in Indiana. You could both meet halfway and just come here.
Are you in around
Northwest
Chicago?
Arkansas?
Oh, Northwest. Oh, all right. Yeah, let's meet up at the HQ. Yeah, Orcs together strong, right?
Yes.
But he might end up eating crow if this is wildly successful. Knock on wood, hopefully, but just showing up with a truckload. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you got your bookmark, your scenery magnets, and then the combo pack. This is the King edition.
Yeah, I try to give them all a name. Yeah.
So this is more stuff, and you're getting your biography cards in this one.
Yes, and I'm going to try to foil those. Like I said, I got some quotes, and I have some experience, but I want to cross bridges when I come to them and plan as best I can ahead of time with what I know, and I'm just kind of getting started here. So, and I'm learning a lot. Just kind of focusing on my campaign parade, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
then with your Dragon edition, you've got tarot cards added to it, and you've got the source material added to it, Archai. Being the name of the world.
Mm-hmm. I will order author copies, sign them, and ship them out to you personally. You got it. Yeah.
And then your bundles. If you're a retailer and you want to get these in your store, get multiples and get them at a discount that way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to do the one now. I'm going to do the embarrassing thing now. This always kills me. I'm going to reload the page, see what if anything has changed. And again, it's another situation where I did not help you at all, AC.
It's okay. Just the content being up and the association, like we've connected now. We've met. You know, just knowing that you're a printer, I actually didn't know that before going.
Well, we didn't used to be. We used to be just a distributor, and people were like, "Do you publish or do you print?" I'm like, now we do, and we're retail distributor. So our books are in Amazon, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million.
Okay, cool, man.
We are fully loaded.
Let's talk, man, for sure.
We will do that. In fact, we will do that in about 3 minutes, guys, because we're going to close up shop here. AC, it's been great having you on.
Yeah, it's been
We appreciate the chance to look at your stuff. I said look at your show.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, that reminds me. I actually host 2 shows. So if you ever want to come on my show, one of them there's talking shop with the boys. Usually discussing movies or something and writing and whatever. But then there's also me and my wife, where it's a little bit more personal, like this. And,
okay.
Yeah,
I'd love to, because I've got stuff happening. We got another book. We just opened a reading period for our next anthology, Gods and Services, new location. Follow up to our very first anthology we did 4 years ago, which was Gods and Services.
Heck yeah.
We'd love to have you. My favorite concept. So, everybody in the chat, thank you guys for being here tonight. Pro-orc, anti-orc, we don't care. Everyone's welcome.
All are welcome.
We don't have a show without you guys. So, we're just a podcast falling in the woods if you don't show up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always glad you're here. And of course, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Click the link below, fund my comic, A Saga of Sunsets. Thank you very much.